Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about, is Power Rangers racist? You know, it's crazy. Like, I was watching this one dude's YouTube video about Power Rangers, and he brought up some tweet from a woman named Allison. She tweeted back a while ago. See, she just now started, well, I don't know just now. I don't know when exactly she started, but she's becoming a Power Ranger fan, let's just say that. And as she watches, like, the episodes and the season, she tends to tweet about them. And she got the SPD and she found it very offensive. This has been brought to my notice because I didn't even know this happened and that she tweeted. Because I don't I don't. Let's say the difference. When I'm on Twitter, I rarely go to any hashtag that has to do with Power Rangers. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. If it comes out of the blue, because I'm like a huge Power Ranger fan, but I don't actually follow what the fandom says and stuff like that because it's a fandom. And fandoms are always split in half. You have like the toxic people, and then you have the good people and stuff like that. And then you have like the fanboys and the fangirls. So when it comes to like fandoms like Star Trek and X-Men and Justice League and all this others, I tend not to click on stuff because you never know what you're gonna get. You know what I'm saying? But every once in a while I do get curious, especially with the Lightning Collection type stuff. And because Power Rangers has been around for 30 years and stuff, it has a huge fandom. I have talked about that before. I feel like Power Rangers should be respected and people need to stop disrespecting it. It is just like any other superhero team like X-Men or the Avengers. I hate that it gets crapped on. But of course in the fandoms you have the nitpickers, the people who if one little thing is like out of continuity, just like a slight hair, they get like offended and stuff. But this woman got offended for something completely different. When she watched SPD, she saw the cops as being modern day, like what's been going on in modern day, like news, like cops, racially profiling people, shooting people of color, treating them like crap, talking about them in emails, so that's getting discovered and all kinds of stuff like that now, mainly by that of white cops. And that, how the Red Ranger Jack started off as a criminal and he's black, but then he later become a Power Ranger and all this other stuff. And so this was really apparently huge back then when she tweeted that, and cop propaganda or something like that, I think she said, about how they have these magical items that can tell if you're guilty or not, and only the aliens are the bad people and they have to arrest them and stuff like that. And so I never noticed something about SPD until she brought something up. And it's funny because I watch SPD. I love SPD. It's one of my top 5 Power Ranger seasons. But I never noticed that the black guy and the Hispanic girl were criminals in the beginning, while the police officers were all white. I never realized that. It never dawned on me. I just saw it for what it was. They started off as Robin Hood type criminals, then they became Power Rangers, and they did good. I never saw that before. And it's funny. And then so I started thinking to myself, does she actually have a point? Is Power Rangers actually racist? Or is it something else? Well, to be honest with you, no, I don't think Power Rangers is flat out racist. Because think about it. I've said this before on my channel. Power Rangers is one of the most diverse shows in the world, and it was so diverse back in the 90s. You had a black character, an Asian character, Hispanic character. And you had a Native American character. You had so many ethnicities and cultures and stuff like that. And so I don't think Power Rangers itself in a whole is racist. I mean, heck, even the creator of the show is a man of color himself. Han Saban, I believe, is from Israel, I believe, and he married a white lady and everything. And so However, I have stated this before on my channel. I don't think Power Rangers itself is racist. I think there are racial stereotypes within certain seasons, and that's because of old school Hollywood and stuff. It's the traditional Hollywood. Oh, well, if this person of color, let's give them this stereotypical like trait. You know what I'm saying? And when it comes to Power Rangers in the past, the majority of the people who worked behind the scenes were white and Asian and stuff. I don't know if there were too many like black people working on set, but mostly it was just like white writers, a couple of like people of color writers from whatever Saban and the what's the name? Lev Shooky or something like that. The dude who got involved with the what was that? VR Trooper actress. And all that headache that came from that, whatever he is and stuff. And you had a lot of Asian people working too, that for stunt work, choreography, some of the writing and direction and stuff. But mostly, from the only people we know of in Power Rangers behind the scene were always predominantly white and Asian. And when they did like a writer's room for the latest season of Dino Fury, we saw that it still is all white. And I think there's only like one female writer. And this is in New Zealand and stuff. And New Zealand has a large plethora of like different races. They have everything from white, black, Pacific Islander, Maori, all kind of Samoan, like all kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so it was kind of weird to see like a predominantly white, like, writer's room and stuff. And, you can't help but to not notice certain stereotypes when it comes to certain characters and certain races in Power Rangers. And I believe that's just old school Hollywood perception of like people of race. And sadly that translated into the show, which makes people at times feel that it is racist. And when it happens more than one times, then you start to wonder those people who created the show, how they truly feel and stuff like that. And of course, I'm gonna give like examples, and because I've even brought this up with like the demotion of like a black character who's the Red Ranger, who always tends to normally give their power up to that of a white guy, which is, when it happens more than one time, then you scratch your head and you're just kind of like, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it does happen. And then, of course, let's not forget Jungle Fury, which is an all-white cast except for one Asian dude. And it's a very Asian-themed season, which was just bizarre. No, there's two Asian dudes, and that's it. It's like everybody else is white. And it's just kind of like, that's kind of weird. And this is Power Rangers. And Power Rangers are very, diverse and stuff like that. But let's go back to how it all began with that of Mighty Morphin. When I watched Mighty Morphin, I just saw what it is when I was a kid's show. As I started to get older and then the internet started to become a thing, people started pointing out something that was odd on the show. They pointed out that the black guy was the Black Ranger and the Asian actress was the Yellow Ranger. And of course, a black person is synonymous with the color black and Asian synonymous with the color yellow. And so people are just kind of like, that's too much of a coincidence, don't you think? And so, this has been debated for, decades, right? And so, for those who don't know, the original Yellow Ranger was actually Hispanic. And sometimes Hispanics are associated with the color yellow as well. Now, Walter Jones, or Walter Emmanuel Jones, I think that's his name, the full name, he had stated, he was just always told that the Black Ranger is the best friend and the sidekick and second in command and stuff like that. And so that's who he was, you know what I'm saying? and he didn't really think about it as race. Now I'm sure as time has went on, he's just covering up for like production because he doesn't want no negativity towards that of like Power Rangers in general and that of his character. But it's too much of a coincidence that like they put black on black and then the black person on black and then the Asian person on yellow. Now, there are stereotypes, racial stereotypes with that of like, the original Power Ranger cast and the colors that they got and everything, right? And so, like, now, Power Rangers, what they love to do is that they love to ask the actors and actresses, what kind of hobbies you have. And then they translate those hobbies on over to their characters. Since Walter is a dancer, they ask him, well, hey, can you just put some, like, dancing maneuvers in, like, your fighting style? Nothing wrong with that, you know what I'm saying? However, one of the things that got kind of odd was that one thing I've noticed about Zach that I've talked about so many times, especially in season 1, is that he tends to just start dancing out of nowhere, no matter what he's doing. I'm not talking about the hip hop keto thing when he's fighting. I'm talking about like other stuff, like when him and the others were like cleaning up like a yard and raking it. He just started breaking out some dance moves and I'm just like, why is he doing that for? And stuff. I'm all like, because that's a huge stereotype when it comes to black people, is that we just start dancing for like no apparent reason. It's like a huge stereotype. But like I said before, all stereotypes are based on actual reality and stuff. You see a couple of people do it and they assume everybody does it and stuff. Kind of like how the whole black people can't swim thing. And so I don't know if that was him just doing that on his own as he was cleaning it up, or they asked him or they put that in there and stuff. Also, with Trini's character, she when they later made her into an Asian character because the original Hispanic one left the show in the pilot, like with her, they decided to make her very well. Her character, like I said before, is kind of a little unknown. Like at one time, they tried to make her smart, like Billy, kind of like his assistant. Like when they were like, Trini, help Billy with the Zords. Cause when Tommy like messed everything up as the Green Ranger and stuff. And so, of course, Asian people are stereotyped as being super smart. So Billy was already a genius. I don't know why she had to be like the second genius, Then they made her very, very, very influential. I can't get my words out today. In Asian culture, martial arts, stuff like that. And of course, that's something you always see in like, Asian movies and stuff like that. I don't know if that's how she is in real life because nobody really knows because she sadly, tragically passed away, so we can't ask. We do know she did come from another country though. And so, but it is kind of weird that normally with like, Asian characters, at least with two, they've always had that strong, like, Asian, like martial arts, like, tranquility, like meditation, type stuff that you would see like in a Hong Kong type movie or something. And then, of course, you have Kimberly. She's the Valley girl, and most white girls are stereotyped, especially in California with blonde hair, as being very Valley girlish. And, then you have, of course, the nerd and everything, who is Billy. Big, thick glasses, overalls, using big language. Now, they didn't take too much of his hobbies into fruition on the show because he's actually a gymnast and stuff. And they really didn't do nothing with that. They did that with Kimberly because, Amy Jo Johnson is a gymnast and everything. And so with him, they made him the smart one. But he has said, he didn't even know how to say those big words because he wasn't that smart in school. And he really had to bone up on like a encyclopedia and dictionary. He'll like look the words up like the night before so he can like get a better feeling of how to say the words and everything. And then, of course, you have Jason, who, well, this dude is like every type of color it is except for black. He's like white. He has like a little bit of like Asian in him, a little bit of Hispanic in him, all this other stuff, you know. And so, like, you know, he really doesn't fit no mold of anything, unless you want to say that, oh, you know, Hispanics have like a fiery temper. He's the Red Ranger, unless you want to go like that. But, you know, whatever. So I don't think. So I think what it was more old school Hollywood of kind of like, you know, oh, well, if he's black, just make him the Black Ranger. And if she's Asian, just make her like the Asian Ranger or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And, Jesus Christ, the Yellow Ranger and stuff. And so, like, but really, when it came to Trini, it really had nothing to do with, like, you know, her race. Because Kimberly was already booked as the Pink Ranger. And like I said before, the Hispanic actress was originally the Yellow Ranger. But like I said before, Hispanics tend to be like placed with the color yellow in everything sometimes. Yellow, oranges, and browns. Like a lot of times you'll see a lot of festival colors and stuff like that. And sometimes they get like, you know, given like the yellow like stamp of approval when it comes to like Hollywood stuff. So I don't think they're like straight out, oh, let's be racist and stuff. I just think it's like old school, kind of like, okay, this will fit with that, that will fit with that. It's kind of like when I watch like world news and there's a crime that happened with like a black person. And it doesn't matter what kind of crime it is. Let's just say they got shot by a white cop. That's normally what's been going on lately. And they will send the black reporter over to talk to them as opposed to another reporter of a different race and stuff. So I think it's like that, you know what I'm saying? Then you get into other seasons and you start to notice weird little things here and there. But let's get to the SPD thing first by going to other examples. So you have Jack, he's black, and before he became a Power Ranger, he was a criminal and everything. And him and Z were like, you know, they've been living pretty much together since kids, known each other on the streets. You know, they've been living to surviving and stuff. They also have some Robin Hood type qualities where if somebody, kind of like Aladdin, it's kind of like, you know, if they see somebody who's just as poor as them and needs something, they will give it if they, you know, they have it and stuff like that. And so it is now weird because when I watched this show, what is it, 2005 it came out, and now it's 2023, you look at things a little bit differently. And it's just kind of like, why is the only two criminal rangers who started off as criminals, because that's what they literally are. They are literally criminals and everything. They're poor, they're robbing to survive. They're not like hardened criminals, like really bad criminals. They just steal to survive like Aladdin. And it's kind of like, why is it's the black and the Hispanic one that are criminals? You know what I'm saying? Like, how come? And once again, you know, Z is Hispanic and she's associated with the color yellow and stuff like that. Why couldn't Z be like the Pink Ranger and stuff? And Sydney be the Yellow Ranger, make her a criminal? Because it's weird. The three white cops who are Power Rangers are white. And everything. And the two criminals are people of color. Like, that's just weird and stuff like that. And this is, of course, when the show went to New Zealand. And so it was not the original, like, you know, American, like, creators doing it. Now, to be fair, there is racism in New Zealand. Like, I've talked about it before. Other celebrities have talked about it. Maori, Samoan, and Asian stars, celebrities from New Zealand have talked about how racist it is over there when it comes to the white population, and also how they treat like them and how they treat black people in general. Because there are black people that sometimes you just can't tell because they're mixed with other stuff. And so, like, yes, there are Asian people over there and they just get as mistreated as anybody else. And so, like, with the new production and everything, it's weird that they will make the white people technically the good people, and the people of color technically the bad people originally. But as the show goes on, we see, of course, Z and Jack become Power Rangers, and they help people out. They sacrifice their lives. They're brave and all this other stuff. And then, of course, towards the end, Jack decides he's gonna leave SPD because he feels that, like, even though SPD will fight the good fight and protect the world and stuff like that, they're not really helping out the little people who get left behind. And that's when he decides to leave and do, like, kind of like a charitable type, like, act and help people out in that kind of way. And so, like, his character goes through different arcs. Like, he is a bit arrogant when he first starts out and everything because, he was never he was raised to survive on his own in the mean streets and everything. And so when I think of that, of him and Z being people of color and being criminals originally, it reminds me of the Aladdin movie because he has so much parallels with Aladdin. Like, you think about it, Jack is Aladdin, you know what I'm saying? But then I remember one of the big criticism about the original Aladdin cartoon was like, no wait, yeah, like the lighter skinned, dark people of Agrabah were like good, and the darker, more skin were more like the aggressive. And then you get into Last Airbender, the live action movie, which is supposed to be all Asian inspired and indigenous, but instead they had like the white characters play like the good guys in the movie, and all the evil people were like brown skinned, dark, like colored people and stuff. And it was like, well, hold up. This was a huge controversy for the Nickelodeon era because Nickelodeon made that movie. They made the cartoon. The cartoon is supposed to be all Asian and indigenous, but like I said before, the bad guys in the movie were all of a sudden all Indian. They were all dark brown skinned people, and all the good guys in this, no matter if they came from the Air Tribe or the Water Tribe or Earth King or whatever, they were all white. And it's just kind of like, huh. So this is Hollywood. And no matter what country you live in, like I say, Hollywood's Hollywood. This is them playing that crap and everything. And so, like, it's not the show itself, it's the people behind the scenes. And it's because, simply fact put, that Hollywood tries to appeal to a white audience. That's why when you have like black people on shows and movies, they tend to be very, some at times, the majority of the time, they tend to be very light-skinned people mixed with either black, white, Hispanic, and black, something lightly colored. If it's not a predominantly black show, if it's a predominantly black show, then they're all dark. But if it's like a show created by like white people and it's a predominantly white cast and they have a person of color, Hispanic, Asian, or black, they always tend to go with the lighter skin tone. Villains of Valley View on Disney Channel is a prime example of this. There are two black characters. One's kind of like a recurring, the other one is main. But they're light skinned, super light skinned, to where at times, if you glance at them real fast, you'll think they're white and everything. And you have to look at them and like, oh wait, you are a mix with like black and stuff. And that's nothing to take away from them, nothing like that. But it's like Hollywood always goes for that. And then, like, the Lilo and Stitch live action movie, there's controversy with the casting. Nani, who's supposed to be a dark-skinned Hawaiian girl, is played by a white Hawaiian girl. That don't make no sense. And Lilo is pretty, like, tannish skin on the like movie, so it's like that don't make no sense whatsoever when this movie has really deep-rooted ties to that Pacific Islanders and Hawaiian people and some like Samoan type people. So why in the world did they cast a white Hawaiian to play like a role that's supposed to be a person of color and stuff like that? And that's because they're trying to appeal to like a wider audience. Because of course, if white people like don't see themselves in movies, they like act out. And we see that a lot on YouTube, all these toxic people and stuff. And these toxic people, they saying what they're saying because that's the way they feel. And of course, some of them are doing it just for the money, but they're saying it because that's how they feel and stuff. And it's a reason why woke culture is dying in Hollywood movies, and Hollywood is starting to take a step back to predominantly white again because they're starting to lose money at the box office because now they don't want to see that. And if they happen to see one LGBT couple kiss like in Lightyear, oh, they don't want to see it because, oh, you're trying to brainwash my child and everything. And it's that kind of crap. And it's affecting Hollywood and stuff. And that's why, like, a lot of, like, the casting is the way it is in Power Rangers sometimes. And so I know some people are gonna be like, okay, well, maybe that was just SPD, and like, like that was just like a one-off type thing, and maybe they learned their lesson, but they didn't. Think now in Operation Overdrive, and you have the character of Will. Will is very unique. He is the first black person to play a Black Ranger in about 20 years because it was a big no-no and everything. It was part of like, you weren't allowed to do that and stuff. And not only is he the first black character to play a Black Ranger, but he started off as a criminal and everything, just like Jack and just like Z. And so like, it's weird because like, he started off as a criminal for crying out loud. He was a thief and everything. Now, of course, just like in other Power Rangers stuff, they turn their life around. But it's weird that the black man was a thief. The white guy was the son of the person who created the Power Rangers and also a robot. The white girl was a race car driver, and like what most race car drivers are and stuff like that. Like, have you ever noticed that and stuff? But then you get to the other two Rangers. Now, you have the Pink Ranger, who I'm not 100% sure what her race is. I'm pretty sure she is like Hispanic. She might have some Asian in her. I don't know if she's Filipino or not. When it comes to Filipino people, it's hard to tell. But I'm pretty sure Rose is Hispanic. That's my best guess I can think of. And so like, well, her, there's no stereotype with her whatsoever. But then when it comes to the Blue Ranger, who's Asian, he was a stunt double who specialized, like, in martial art movies and stuff like that. And that tends to be like a stereotype that people think of Asian people. Oh, they're all martial artists, or they're all like stunt doubles. And that's because, like, in a lot of times in Hollywood, they are. If they're not playing the smart person, they're playing like the martial artist. If they ain't playing that, then they're a stunt double in real life. And so like, once again, this goes back to that casting of like stereotypes and stuff like that, and it's kind of weird that like, Will is, started off as a criminal and everything, and he happens to be black. And it was just like the whole Jack situation and stuff. And the Z situation is that the person of color started off once again as like a criminal and stuff. And they could have made Dax the criminal, and they could have made Will the stunt dude, you know what I'm saying? But they didn't for some bizarre reason. Then there's that weird occurrence in Lightspeed Rescue. I just did a review on this for Women's Month and everything with the Pink Ranger. And remember the guy who was like a criminal who hijacked the bus? He was Asian and everything. And yeah, I know this is all Power Rangers are based off Sentai and they're all Asian characters, but they could have made him a different race. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't have to make him Asian. They could have made the bus driver Asian. They could have made the old lady Asian. They could have made the cop Asian. But they decided to make the criminal Asian. And not only did they decide to make the criminal Asian, they made sure they went for a dark skin Asian person to play the criminal, as opposed to a light skinned Asian person who they normally cast for stuff. And so I don't see, this is weird. Like, I don't think Power Rangers is like output racist. I do think there are hints of it that people didn't quite realize and stuff like that until it started being apparent. Because it's just like a lot of things. Like, you know how like there's a lot of offensive comedy stuff from like 60s, 50s, 40s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And now in the year 2020s, people are starting to look back at that stuff and they're just kind of like, hey, that stuff ain't cool and everything, you know? Like, why would they do that and stuff? Why was it accepted back then? And this is Hollywood acceptance. They cast people of colors as like, you know, criminal type roles or bad type people and stuff like that. Now, going back with Operation Overdrive, once a Ranger, Johnny Yon Bosch, who plays Adam Park, the Black Ranger, he pointed this out in the interview and he got really upset. And he literally called it racist. So people been wondering what Adam been up to for 20 years, and apparently he's a martial arts instructor working at a dojo. And the actor literally said in the interview he hated that. He's all like, Tommy gets to be like a teacher, but he has to be the martial arts instructor because he's Asian. And he literally said in the interview that's racist and stuff. And yeah, it's just like, when you have a writer's room or like people behind the scenes that are mainly white and unaware of like people of color and other people's cultures and stuff, they tend to fall back on stereotype because they assume either, hey, that's what they're about and all this other crap. And so there is racism here and there in Power Rangers. Power Rangers ain't perfect. So if one of those type of people keeps defending, say, well, Power Rangers is never racist and stuff like that. Even I said before, I don't think it's flat out racist. I do think there are hints, however, of racism in there and stuff. Like, it's not full blown, but it is apparent once you start seeing them and stuff. But of course, nobody wants to believe that because this is their childhood, and you know, like they'll scream bloody murder if you like go against that and stuff. But it's there. Like, it's literally there and people aren't seeing it. It's kind of like when people of color, especially black, say they're racially profiled by like cops. Nobody wants to believe them. White people don't want to believe them. And then until you start seeing a black person with their brains splattered out in the street, then you're kind of like, huh, and everything. And then you see their friend who's white just standing up and like completely fine and everything. You know, like, it's there. You just have to listen to people when they tell you stuff. Then there's Joel from Lightspeed Rescue. And I've said this before. Like, when I did Black History Month for him last year, and along with Katie in Time Force, I had the hardest time trying to find a solo episode with them that was actually good. And that's because something I've noticed with a lot of these Power Rangers stars is that if they're a person of color, and sometimes a female, it's hard to find a good solo episode with them, mainly the black cast. Think about it. Like, when you do a solo episode on a Power Ranger character, you can always find a really good episode to sink your teeth into that really highlights that character, except for the black ones. Around the time of Lightspeed Rescue, it started becoming harder and harder and harder to find good solo episodes of black characters. Joel, Max, and Katie come to mind and everything. I had the freaking hardest time trying to find a good episode that didn't make them look goofy, that didn't make them seem arrogant, or didn't make them seem like they barely had a role in the show while somebody else did, like, you know, all the hero stuff. And Joel was a very arrogant, selfish type character. He was super cocky and everything. Thought he was the best of the best and thought he was better than all these other people and stuff like that. And my question is, why did it have to go to him? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because he's like a black guy. Why did he have to be the super cocky one and everything? Like, I never understood that. And I've said this before, when they did the casting for this season, they basically tried to duplicate the casting of Lost Galaxy. The black guy was the Green Ranger, the blue was Asian, the Italian was like the Yellow Ranger, and the two white casts were like pink and red and stuff. And even with what's his name? The Blue Ranger. Um, let's see. I forget the Blue Ranger's name in Lightspeed Rescue. Like, his character, was all about swimming and stuff. Which, there was a couple episodes you do see him swim, but you don't really. Like, it's weird. He's supposed to be this, like, great swimmer and all this other stuff. But how many episodes actually highlighted him swimming? Like, you know what I'm saying? And then when they did get to a solo episode with him, it was a very Asian inspired episode. And that was based off like the Sentai. And they made sure they cast the Asian guy for like that role and stuff. And I hate when they cast based on like a stereotype casting, Then you have the Asian stereotype character of them not being martial artists per se, but super geniuses, smart, which is something that plagues Hollywood a lot. You have Time Force and Ninja Storm, where Cam and what's the Green Ranger's name in Time Force? Trip. They're both Asian actors, and yet both their characters are like super geniuses and stuff. They could have swapped those roles to like other races, but like they didn't. Now, I'm not saying an Asian person can never play like the smart person, because they can, you know what I'm saying? But sadly now, because of Hollywood and the Asian community keeps bringing this up, is that they're tired of seeing that. And so that does become like a problem and stuff. Then you have seasons like Mystic Force and Jungle Fury where the casting was really bizarre. Like in Mystic Force, I do applaud them for having two Hispanic characters in the same season. That is very rare. But if you stop and you look at it, where's the rest of the diversity? There's not a single black character in that entire series and stuff. And there's not even an Asian character ranger in that series. Now, I think the Red Ranger is Lebanese. I have no idea what Lebanese is. Some people say it's Asian. I have no idea. But I do know the Gold Ranger dude is like, Samoan. And so at least that's good. They brought some people of color in. But it's like, where's the other races and stuff? And then you have Jungle Fury, which I've said this before. I made an entire video about that. The entire cast is white with only two Asian dudes. And it's a very heavily themed Asian season. And there's like no Hispanics, no blacks, no Italians, nothing like that. And it's not even like a Samoan person or a Maori person or nothing like that. It's just like, where everybody at? And that has to go with the whole casting. That's their problem and stuff. They decided for whatever reason that to have people of color in those seasons. And then you have Nick from Mystic Force. He is Lebanese. He's a Red Ranger. And he is the first ever leader of the Power Rangers and Power Rangers in general to give up. I'm not joking. In the finale, he's all like, yo man, evil has won. They kicked our butts. Like, I'm scared. Like, I give up. He literally gave up. And then his team had to convince him to, like, not give up and keep fighting and everything. But it's like, it was weird. This was the first time and I don't mind seeing a Power Ranger like get so scared that they can't see no hope at the end of the tunnel, or no light at the end of the tunnel, so they give up. That was very unique and interesting. But why did it have to be a person of color? Then, in the next season, Operation Overdrive, then the entire team gave up and wants a Ranger and stuff because they lost their powers. And I guess that was supposed to make up for the fact that Nick just gave up and everything. But no, it's like they wrote him to literally give up. And he is the first ever to do that. And he happens to be a person of color. And then maybe they did not, I'm not saying they intended that to happen, to him to be a person of color and give up. But like, it just sucks he had to be the one to do that. Like, Then there's something I picked up with RPM and Dino Fury. And it's like, why? Why are Six Rangers now all of a sudden becoming comedic relief? But when the white, like, additional Six Ranger comes in, they're there for comedic relief. They're more like, the dumb, not that, like, smart, like silly, people and stuff. But in RPM and Dino Fury, the Six Rangers, who two of them are Asian and one's black, they act very juvenile. Like, they act like little kids, which is shocking and everything. Because take Ion. Ion is the only black character I've never done Black History Month for, because I can't find a good solo episode for him. His first introduction was a good episode, but I already covered that in a completely different video, so I wasn't going to cover it twice. And so as I'm trying to look for like a solo episode, his solo episodes are super weak because they have other characters, being the main central focus and stuff. And so, like, the main issue I have with Ion, I'm not the only person who has this issue, is that when he started off in this first season, his character was okay. His character was strong, arrogant, but strong. But then a couple episodes into the end of season 1 and all of season 2, he is an idiot. Like, he is a juvenile idiot. He acts like a buffoon. And it's just like the writing let him down big time. And I don't understand why. And then something kind of similar happened in RPM. Jim and Jenna were very silly. Like, they was just like almost juvenile in a sense. It's like they have these adult bodies, but they act like kids and everything. I don't remember if they're smart or not. They are in some sense, but they love making things like boom and blow up, and they just act like, they talk like kids and stuff. And it's like, why was it that the people of color had to get those roles just to act like buffoons and everything? I don't understand that. And I'm not the only person who feels this way. Like, I remember the dude Yoshi, who plays like the Blue Ranger in Dino Charge. Like, when he first got his role and he started reading the dialogue, he asked the people straight up, yo, why is the only Asian guy on this show talking like an idiot and everything? He's not making like sense when he talks. And they had to explain to him, oh, your character's a caveman and everything. And he's like, oh, okay, because he was getting offended. Like, he didn't understand why the only Asian person on that show talked like a buffoon and everything. And yet again, it's the person of color who talks like a buffoon. And I don't understand that. And it's because the writer's room in Power Rangers is predominantly white. And they are either unaware or they just, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, because there are some that are unaware. And there are some who are just kind of like, they do it intentionally and stuff. And it always happens with like the people of color a lot and stuff. Then you get to black demotion, which I made an entire video about this. When TJ became the Red Ranger, he was a black dude, and it was like a big thing. It was like, this has never happened in Power Rangers before. And he was a really cool leader, but he was never a leader for a long period in time. Sadly, he was only a leader for like a couple of episodes because it was the second half of Turbo. And so when the Earth, got rocked by like, Divatox and the Rangers lost their powers, he decided not to quit and to go out into outer space and like, find new powers and protect the world. He could have stayed on Earth with everybody, but no, he decided to go off into space and find new powers, find Zordon, and save the universe. And of course, he got demoted in space. Now, of course, the theory and people was fine with it to a degree because, like, he didn't know nothing about space, nothing whatsoever. And so it made sense for Andros to take over. And so people just like accepted that. And he was second in command in the American footage and third in command in the Sentai footage. But then you get to SPD and Jack, like, he gave up his powers and Sky became the new Red Ranger. And of course, this is all fictional because there are writers making this happen. The writers decided Jack should give up his powers. And, since Sky is second in command, he should like take over and everything. And, then of course now you have Dino Fury going into Cosmic Fury. And Zato died, lost his powers, came back as some type of white Red Ranger type thing, and now they're going off into space and we still don't know why he got demoted and why all of a sudden Amelia is the Red Ranger and she's gonna be the leader of the team. Or maybe it might be a Rocky situation where she's just second in command, but for now we're gonna assume she's the leader. And it's like, oh, he got demoted, and not only is he black, but he's also Asian. And so like with TJ, you can excuse it with saying, well, TJ don't know nothing about space. Like, TJ don't know nothing about space, but then Amelia knows nothing about space. Yeah, she got found out to be an alien towards the end, crammed in there, but she don't know the first thing about outer space. And all of a sudden, or leadership, and all of a sudden she's gonna be a leader and stuff. And so it was a demotion and stuff. And so, no, I don't feel like Power Rangers is racist, like out front racist. Like, I don't, because there's too much diversity and culturalism and stuff in Power Rangers to consider it that. But, there are traces and hints of it throughout the entire series. And it has to do with the production crew and stuff. It has to do with the creators. It has to do with the writers and stuff. The casting directors. Some do it probably intentionally and others do it non-intentionally. And it sucks when it does happen and people notice, because it could just be a coincidence. You know what I'm saying? But when you have something like Dino Fury, where you have, I can't think of the Green Ranger's name. I don't know I'm drawing a blank on people's names. And she's actually my favorite. But she's the LTBG character. She's like a lesbian. And her character is supposed to be Hispanic. But they did not cast a Hispanic actress to play her. They picked, I guess, Mari or something like that, because she looks Hispanic, because the dude who plays her brother actually is Hispanic. And so her and the people who play the parents, they're not real Latinos and stuff. And it's like, really? You couldn't find not one Hispanic actress to fill that role? You had to find a pretend one? And that's just offensive. Now, I do like the actress, and I do like the character, but it just sucks they went that route, you know? And that's old school Hollywood for you. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.